Good morning. Today we will start a new chapter, Oscillations. Write down the name of this chapter first, Oscillations. Oscillations. Write down this name, Oscillations. Oscillations is an important phenomenon like a phenomenon of circular motion and phenomenon of rotational motion. For example, you are able to hear me is due to the oscillations or vibrations of the particles in the medium. And another example is you are able to see me. It is due to the oscillations of electric and magnetic field in the medium. So our hearing and vision depends upon the study of oscillations. And so the study of phenomenon is also very phenomenon of oscillation is also very important. But before going to this study, we must know periodic motion. So our first point is a periodic motion. Write down the point periodic motion. This is our today's first point, periodic motion. Periodic motion. And the question will be asked on this point is, what is a periodic motion? Write down the question. What is a periodic motion? What is a periodic motion? Periodic motion is a familiar motion, and so it is easy to define the periodic motion. For example, the motion of a tip of a hand of a clock. We know that the second hand requires 60 seconds to complete one revolution, and its motion repeated in same interval of a time, so it is a periodic motion. Another example of the periodic motion is this oscillatory periodic motion, oscillations. And so after recalling these examples, we are going to define the periodic motion. Consider this motion. Suppose that if the bulb is pulled aside and released, then each oscillation is completed in equal interval of a time. And so from this example, the definition becomes the motion of a body in which each set of movement repeats in equal interval of a time is called a periodic motion. Suppose that this is a motion in which each set of movement repeats in equal interval of a time. So it is a periodic motion. So write down the motion of a body, the motion of a body, the motion of a body in which each set, the motion of a body in which each set of movement, repeats, each set of movement repeats in equal interval of a time is called is called periodic motion. Is called a periodic motion. Some examples of the periodic motion are circulatory periodic motion and oscillatory periodic motion. So write down some examples of the periodic motion are some examples of periodic motion. Some examples of periodic motion are circulatory periodic motion, and oscillatory periodic motion. Circulatory periodic motion and oscillatory periodic motion. These are some examples of the periodic motion. In the circulatory periodic motion, suppose that this is a circulatory periodic motion in which the linear speed of the bob is constant. So it is called as UCM. And so the example of the circulatory periodic motion is the example of circulatory periodic motion is UCM, and the oscillatory periodic motion is oscillations. See this, another example of a periodic motion. Oscillations. Also, every periodic motion every oscillatory or vibratory motion is a periodic motion, but every periodic motion need not be oscillatory or vibratory motion. So write down every oscillatory or vibratory motion is a periodic motion, but every periodic motion, write down this, but every periodic motion need not be vibratory or oscillatory motion. Vibratory or oscillatory motion. Also, if the particle moves to and fro periodically along the same path, then it is called a linear simple harmonic motion. Write down. If if the particle moves to and fro, if the particle moves to and fro periodically, if a particle moves to and fro periodically along a straight line, comma, then it is called linear periodic motion. Linear periodic motion. Then it is called linear periodic motion. That is linear. That is linear SHM. Then it is called a linear simple harmonic motion. Then it is called linear simple harmonic motion. Linear simple harmonic motion. Linear simple harmonic motion, that is linear SHM. And if the particle moves to and fro periodically along an arc, write down, if particle moves to and fro, if particle moves to and fro periodically, if particle move to and fro periodically along an arc, along an arc, comma, then it is called angular simple harmonic motion. Angular simple harmonic motion, that is angular SHM. That is angular SHM. When a body is in periodic motion, then each set of movement of a body repeats in equal interval of a time. For example, oscillations. If this is one oscillation, 2, 3, and if each oscillation is repeated in equal interval of a time, then time required to complete a single set of movement is called as a periodic time or a period. So write down, when body is in periodic motion, when body is in periodic motion, comma, when body is in periodic motion, then each set of movement repeats in equal interval of a time, repeats in equal interval of a time, and the time required to complete a single set of movement is called A period is called a period, in bracket capital T, or a periodic time, or a periodic time. Also, also number of also number of sets completed, also number of sets completed per unit time is called frequency, Thus period and frequency are important physical quantities for the periodic motion. Thus period and frequency are two quantities for the description of periodic motion, for description of periodic motion, for the description of periodic motion. Write down this.